Welcome to Prepare to Write. I'm Dr. Keely Mohan Doyle. Writing the introduction can be the hardest part of writing an argument paper. This video lecture will walk you through the major parts of an introduction and how to develop a strong thesis statement. There are three major parts to an introduction: the attention grabber, the background, and the thesis statement. There are many types of attention grabber, but the purpose is the same no matter which one you choose. Attention grabbers are meant to hook your audience from the start of your argument. They hint at the topic and make the audience want to know more about it, so they will continue to read the paper. This is particularly important in argument papers where the audience usually disagrees with your stance and may be reluctant to read what you have to say. For this reason, it is also important that the attention grabber is not only clearly relevant to the topic you have chosen, but also to the audience who will read about it. If you can connect with the audience early on, it will make them more open to the claims you make and the evidence you provide. Background information serves as a transition connecting your attention grabber to your thesis statement. It provides contextual information about the topic that helps explain the attention grabber and sets the stage for the claims made in the thesis. The thesis statement is probably the most important part of the introduction because it outlines your specific stance on the topic. A strong thesis statement is debatable. An argument isn't an argument if everyone already agrees with it. That's just a statement of fact. The thesis should also be focused. What specific aspect of the topic do you want to address? If it's too broad, your argument may become too thin, trying to cover too much ground in a short amount of time. The language of your thesis statement should be specific and precise because the claims and evidence that you mention in the thesis build your ethos and serve as a roadmap for your reader. They will expect you to address and expand on these elements throughout the paper. Here is an example of an introduction from a student paper. In the hook, she outlines a belief that is held by many people and then asks a rhetorical question to get them to consider what happens if we look at the other side of that belief. For background, she explains why this other side needs to be considered and how it is affecting a specific city. It is likely that her audience is from this city or the state, so they would be interested in knowing more. Her thesis statement makes claims about why the issue exists and then argues for a solution to address it. Based on this thesis statement, we would expect to see paragraphs proving that segregation, racial inequalities, insufficient funding, and lack of quality teachers and resources exist in this school system and are causing problems. We would also expect her to explain why she thinks the solution of supporting local nonprofit organizations will address these issues. A strong thesis statement has three parts: the claim, the evidence, and the warrant. The claim is the specific stance you plan to defend throughout the paper. The evidence hints at why you have taken this stance and how you will defend it. The warrant is a little trickier. It's the unspoken logic that connects your evidence to the claim and is usually based on common ground that you believe you and your audience share. This will make a little more sense if we look at an example. Here we have a basic argument thesis statement that goes something like this: politicians who do not listen to their constituents should not be allowed to remain in office because they are not fulfilling the obligations of the position. The claim is that the politicians who don't listen should not be in office. The evidence is that they are not fulfilling their obligations. And the warrant, the common ground that the writer and the audience must share in order to connect the evidence to the claim, could be that politicians work for their constituents, so listening to them is one of their obligations. Not only that, politicians are obliged to make decisions based on what their constituents have said. If the audience doesn't think that politicians have to do these things, that they can decide based on their opinions alone, then the connection between the evidence and the claim falls apart, and the audience likely won't be persuaded by the arguments in the paper. Rather than a basic argument where you just argue your stance on a topic, you may be asked to argue about a problem that you have identified and offer a solution to that problem. Problem-solution thesis statements are a little different because you have to make two claims. First, you have to make a claim about the problem, then you have to make a claim about what solution you think will work best to address it. If we look back at the student example, her thesis boils down to these three parts: a problem claim about the quality of education in St. Louis, evidence of the problem in the form of a brief list that will be supported with evidence in the body of the paper, and a solution claim about the importance of supporting local nonprofits. Looking at the thesis for this example, what kind of evidence could she hint at to support her solution claim? What warrant or common ground would her audience need to hold to agree that the problem exists and that the solution will work? If you are asked to write a problem-solution argument paper, here is a template that could help you write a strong thesis. First, ask yourself the following questions. What is the problem? Why do you think it's a problem? And what solution do you think will help address it? Once you have collected some notes in response to these questions, you can input your information into one of these 3 templates. These are just suggestions, so feel free to edit them to fit your needs. If you have any questions about writing your argument introduction or thesis statement, please contact your professor or visit the APSU Writing Center located on the 1st floor of the Felix G. Woodward Library. Thank you for listening.